Okay, welcome to another round of Garage Talks, but we're not at the garage. We're at the Colorado High School Cycling League office in Boulder, Colorado, with Kate Rao, Executive Director. And I had the pleasure of being in this room many times this fall, working with you on your virtual awards for the High School Cycling League, and we'll get to that in a minute. But thanks for spending some time with me. Get to know you better.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. But I've been intrigued with your organization for the last few years, and it's been really amazing to watch it grow. And tell me, 4 years ago, how many kids were cycling in this program versus now?
4 years ago, it was 2016. Probably 850.
And now it's like 1,900?
So last year we had 1,917 student athletes participate, which included a few middle schoolers, about 100 middle schoolers.
Okay.
This year we had about 1,800 registered riders.
For virtual riding?
Well, we had 1,400 do virtual riding.
Okay. So 18, but you
But we
basically
had
doubled in 4
1,800.
years.
Yes.
Why is
Yes.
that? Tell me, why does this league just keep exploding? What's the secret sauce? Is it Kate Rao? What is it that's the secret sauce?
Well, the secret sauce are truly the coaches.
Right?
Okay. Because they want to, they are the ones that do the recruiting and make it really fun so kids want to come back and are welcoming. So everybody is met where they're at, whether they're a high-end rider who's been racing for a long time or a senior who just decided that they were going to do something different than volleyball.
Right.
Or soccer or whatever. So the coaches really make it happen. We pride ourselves in putting on an exceptional race weekend,
Right.
so that kids are really having fun, everybody's recognized. We have rituals of spirit contests and a skill zone, and we acknowledge every rider that comes across the finish line.
And you've added a lot of teams over the last few years, not just more kids, but it's expanded to how many teams are in the league now?
79.
That's a lot of schools.
You're right. Our first year we had 19 schools represented. So I think, people want to ride their bikes. Mountain biking is relatively safe,
Right.
as far as being able to do something after school. We're very lucky in Colorado and Wyoming and New Mexico where we have access to trails near most of the schools. And it's a team and an individual sport, so I think that's really nice, is that individuals can really work on their own, and then they feel encouraged by their team,
Right.
and then they may have a team member that has been there since they were a freshman and now they're a senior, and that senior takes them under their wing and is someone that they can aspire to. And I really feel that inclusivity is very attractive to kids and parents. And kids, they want to be part of a tribe. When I was in high school, I wanted to be part of something bigger than me. And you get to go travel and...
Did you play sports in high school yourself?
Yeah.
What did you play?
I did volleyball, track, and gymnastics.
Oh, okay.
It was
And that
right
was
when
in from Nebraska, right?
Yeah, and that was right when Title IX had passed.
Okay.
And our school district really applied it right away, so anything I could do to get out of pep club was awesome. I was a cheerleader, and then I was like, I'm going to do sport.
But the high school cycling league seems to really garner kids that wouldn't play a typical team sport. Not all, but there seems to be a pretty good population of kids that they didn't want to play on the soccer team or the basketball team, or they just like to ride their bike, and maybe they found a home here that is something they wouldn't have known about 10 years ago.
Well, and I think the other thing True. The other thing that is very unique is nobody's benched. There's no tryouts. Everybody scores, and then there's cumulative, top 15, 10, and 5 score for their team.
So it's like cross country a little bit.
Yes, it's very much like cross country running.
Okay.
But I think that is something that's very attractive, of that everybody scores, everybody can ride a bike.
And do you guys work with bike companies to get bikes for kids that maybe that's not an affordable thing in their household?
We do have scholarships.
Okay.
And then Trek and Yeti have discounts. And a lot of teams have relationships with bike shops, and the bike shops are an excellent support for the teams. They really go out of their way to help kids. And of course, teams, when somebody's got a bike hanging out, some teams buy team bikes. So they're available for kids to try it. And so we do our best to help kids buy some gear, and to reduce the barrier to entry is what we say. And last year we gave almost $40,000 worth of scholarships in kind and cash, and that doesn't only go to the riders, it also goes to the teams and the coaches, because some teams need the help to get some gear, or a 10x10 tent,
transportation,
or yeah, exactly.
Because you have teams in Wyoming. You've got some all the way in southern Colorado. Some of them travel quite a ways to come to a meet.
Yeah, and
overhead expenses, and
Taos, New Mexico. So yeah, it's in the teams. That's the other aspect of the community component of the teams, is the coaches and the parents and the other kids. When they see somebody that wants to participate, they're going to come together and make sure that kid and family can be involved. Right.
So back me up, like back when this was a vision that before it even happened. How has it evolved into today versus what you may originally have envisioned? Has it changed dramatically, or is it following a course that you've sort of set out all along?
Well, in 1998, 96, we put on high school races.
When you say we?
So Matt Tomasco, who runs Singletrack Mountain Bike Adventures, he's basically my mentor, and we would work with Steve McCauley of USA Cycling and have one high school race a year in the fall.
Okay.
And we put one on up in Netherland, and then there would be ones in outside of Colorado Springs, called the Black Forest. And kids from Durango would come. Anyway, so I had watched what other junior programs were doing when I was working for Singletrack Mountain Bike Adventures.
Okay.
And I would see Nova in Arizona, and there was a group in Idaho, and I started hearing about the NorCal League in Berkeley.
So these were all independent leagues doing their own. Is
Yes.
this before NICA?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
these are just the people like yourself who just love to put something on for the high school. There was no formal national organization.
Correct.
Just little pods of.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And around 2005, I believe, is when I found out about NorCal. And then Mountain States Cup would roll in a high school state championship, I think in 2007 and 2008. And so like Platte Canyon and Boulder High even won then.
Surprise.
So there was this,
So it's very organic.
Yeah. And then I met Gary Fisher at an event at the Trek store in Boulder. Gary Fisher and Rob Roll, and I had heard about NorCal, and I knew Gary was involved, and so I went up, and my vision was to have a Boulder Valley School District mountain biking team.
As just one team for the entire district?
No, just a district.
Oh, like its own league?
Its own league.
Okay.
Like cross country.
Fairview versus Boulder.
Versus Centaurus, Ned, the five. And so anyway, fast forward, I meet Gary Fisher. He sends me a movie. I invite myself to a NorCal Coaches Summit in 2008? Yeah, in 2008, in the fall of 2008. And then in 2009, SoCal had their first spring league. So Matt Fritzinger had replicated, you know, he used SoCal as kind of like, well, I'm close by, whatever. So they had a pretty successful first season, and then he came out in 2009 when Nationals was at Granby Ranch.
Okay.
And he and I talked, and anyway, I had a founding committee. I was raising money, and
Was this a job for you at this point, or was this?
no,
Okay.
I was working for SMBA,
Okay.
Singletrack Mountain Bike
And that
Adventures.
was your job working.
That
for
was my job, and then that was my summer job, and then in the winter I was the training coordinator and children's coordinator at Eldora.
Oh, okay.
So at that time I was a training coordinator at Eldora. So I was working on the
kids
league.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, I was working on the league and this and Simba at the same time.
Okay.
So teaching skiing and snowboarding, and so anyway, fast forward, Matt Fritzinger came out. He thought what Colorado had developed in the community that I had brought together, primarily Simba parents and supporters, felt like it was a worthwhile investment. So he and I kept talking, and the Easton Foundation gave us a grant if we had matched so much money. And so 2009, NICA and the Colorado League were both announced.
So Matt started
Anaheim.
NICA though, or he founded NICA, correct?
Yes, he's the founder of NICA.
And which is the national
The
body of interscholastic cycling, is that right?
They've created a model. They help leagues start all over the country, and there's other interscholastic programs that aren't under the NICA umbrella.
But NICA, but you
NICA
and NICA
has
started
a-
the same,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah, we started exactly at the same time.
Okay, and you're a NICA
Affiliate.
affiliate.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's interesting. So then that's only 11 years ago. It's amazing how time flies, right?
Yeah, last year was our decade of dirt. It is amazing how time flies. And, you know, we had our first race, 155 kids. It was the largest junior field ever in the state. And then, you know, I knew in 2010 that we were going to split into regions.
Oh, okay.
I knew we were going to have 4 regions. Was my vision.
Okay.
Is if it grew enough, and also in hopes to get this more accessible to kids and families that they wouldn't have to travel so far.
Right.
And so this year we had it designated to have 4 regions within 2 conferences, a North and a South. And 2015 we split North and South.
So are you, in general, is it going exactly how you'd love, or is there a lot more to do?
In a lot of ways, it's exactly what I love. You know, I want to reduce the barriers to entry.
Okay.
I really want more economically disadvantaged in rural areas to be able to access this and have, you know, it reflect more of the demographics of our state, which obviously means more Hispanics. I think there are challenges to that as far as cultural barriers, not only language, but are extracurricular activities something that families value in a particular culture. Plus soccer and actually rodeo is very rodeo I hear is pretty popular with the Hispanic culture, which is really cool.
Yeah. No, I can see
And
that.
there is a rodeo high school competitions.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, I've seen it a few times. Yeah. So
Yeah.
where does this, in your personal, like, how does this fit into your personal life and way of, where does this come from? This,
So,
what's it rooted in? This desire to make barriers crumble so that people can get into cycling.
well, it's really adolescence is a really hard time for people, and even
Adolescence.
now.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find yourself, and mental health issues are huge, substance use, anything that the world can give kids to feel good about themselves, to bring families together, and have them have strength and grounded in who they are, in a community that supports them. That's priceless. And then, of course, being outdoors in instilling a sense of respect and land stewardship is really big. And so those are the two things: positive youth development and the environment.
Were there things in your growing up or as you that were sort of pivotal in you wanting those kinds of values to be so strong in this world, so to speak, and this became your way to do that?
Well, my family, our trips were camping, and Colorado was where we would come.
Yeah.
And
Because you grew up in eastern Nebraska, correct?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I went to high school there, and you know, bikes, like everybody knows, is freedom. It allows transportation, so you don't have a car. I didn't own a car until I was 25. So bikes were a very integral part of my life, but not from a, you know, race or anything. You know, I dabbled in mountain bike racing in the early days and did one road race, you know, just for fun. I did the MS 150, whatever. Bikes to me are just such a ingenious invention that have been around for so long, and the synergy of the hub and the wheel, and you know, I can go on and on of always those analogies. And you know, whenever you see anybody riding their bike, you smile, whether it's a fixie, whether it's an e-bike. You know, there's this commonality.
Yeah.
And you see the world in such a different way. I've done some bike tours. You see the world's not shut out from you. When you're driving a car, you're, you know, in your little cocoon.
Yeah.
And, you know, frankly, teenagers driving is pretty scary.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, so, and to just slow down.
Right.
And just have that pure wonder and joy of riding a bike and feeling human powered. You know, kids are they're overscheduled, they're contained all the time, their parents are always texting them. Or I was in intervention, and anything you can do to help a young person, or anybody for that matter, feel grounded and believe in themselves and take risks.
Right.
And it's okay.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot even more. Think about, maybe share, if you can, a story about a particular student that you think this program had just the most amazing impact and changed their life in the most amazing way ever.
Oh.
Is there one that comes to mind? I'm sure there's several, but...
There are several. One that I'll remember. There's so many. Christopher Zineman from Golden is one for sure, who's this amazing young man. He's probably like 6'5", 6'6" now, autistic, overcame incredible series of birth defects and surgeries, and his family never gave up on him, and the Golden team embraced him got him, you know, they all put together money and got him a bike that would fit him. He'll never drive.
Oh.
You know,
He just isn't capable of
he's
physically.
just not capable.
Okay.
And his parents were just blown away by the camaraderie and the support. And, you know, this is the coaches and that team. You know, they rode with Christopher at practices because if you're autistic and things come at you, it's really hard. Sensory integration concerns. And, you know, last year he was a junior and he was riding courses by himself. You know, we have Lena Stolper who has rides with a nasal cannula, lots of disabilities as well. She's autistic too. And she, you know, she was part of a team. And her two older brothers were on the Ralston Valley team. Her dad would ride with her. You know, I've had parents email me saying that their child was on a series of medications to help them navigate particular issues, whether it was ADHD or anxiety or depression, and that as soon as they were on the mountain bike team, they were able to modify the medications to the point by the time they were a junior that they weren't taking them anymore. Now, oftentimes kids grow out of those things. You know, obviously I'm not saying anything about...
Not yet,
but
there's some coincidence there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we know that, oh, and I know another young woman that her mom had told me that she was in a serious, serious depression, and the mountain bike team saved her.
Well, I mean, I watched you guys for over the years, and I've always wanted to be more involved. And this year, I got involved, and I was super proud to be awarded the Partner of the Year, which came with an amazing amount of swag, which is sort of a segue I want to lead to about the community in general, because, you know, I got a thing from here from Squirt and Optic Nerve and Wheatridge and Feedback Sports and Golden and Osprey Bag in Durango and, I'm sorry, not Durango, Cortez.
Yeah, Cortez.
Yeah.
And Primal.
Primal in Denver. I mean, it goes on, right?
Right.
You've built all these relationships with all these companies as a community. From a structural, organizational standpoint, what are you most proud of with this entire organization?
Whew. The kids.
The kids.
They're so inspiring.
Yeah.
They overcome so much. And they just, it's incredible. So here's an incredible story. This was state championships. I think it was a JV or varsity rider. And they were gunning it. You know, they were really competitive to get on the podium, or at least in the top 20. They had mechanicals left and right, and they ended up riding in the back of the JV field with Garrison Hayes, who was a young man who rode with a prosthetic. And this kid was on the Monarch team, and he had the best time riding with Garrison because Garrison was so inspiring to him.
Okay.
And for a competitive young man who was committed all season for this one race and be able to reset their expectations because of their mechanicals and enjoy the ride and make that connection with somebody who's totally different than him. You know, that sense of camaraderie and knowing the other, learning something about someone who you wouldn't normally interact with.
Right.
That's beautiful. Like, you can't...
Right.
That's bringing humanity to the world, which is such amazing. Like, you just create the atmosphere and the magic happens.
I was on a conference call recently with Ride for Justice organization, and Marcus Robinson, who's founded that organization, lives in, I think, California, and he talked about how when the all the things this summer with the racial tension and all that, and he felt like he couldn't even get on his bike. And he said the same thing as you did earlier, that bikes are freedom, and he felt like he was taking his freedom away when he didn't feel like he was safe to get on his bike. And so now there's a big movement to get people of color into cycling more. Is the high school cycling league, how are you guys doing with some of the parts of Colorado that are more people of color, and are you doing active things to recruit those audiences?
Yes, we've always had that. That's always been an initiative of mine and Cycle Effect that Brett Donaldson and his wife Tamara started, focused on Hispanic, young Hispanic teens, females, and they've always been part of the league. So partnering with other organizations that have access to that community, and they've built trust with that community to help the community be welcome at our events, has been huge. Trips for Kids, hopefully, for a long time. John Pasquini, just got an email, so we're going to get that team going. The rural teams, San Luis Valley and Cortez and Buena Vista has been involved since day one, and Leadville has been involved for 8 or 9 or 10 years. And so we scholarship that. We help the coaches brainstorm, finding leaders in those communities to be able to make people believe that this is accessible to them, or to reduce those barriers. And that's the other thing about a bike, is it reduces barriers. You don't have the armor of, you're pretty vulnerable. Yeah. You're pretty vulnerable on a bike.
Yep.
So it's a challenge getting connecting with the right people. Canyon City, has been in the works for a while, and they were very active this year. And so I think those are the biggest things that we can do, is find other groups. There's another group called 360, I think it's called 360 Impact, and they're working with inner city kids.
Oh, I remember that, I think somewhere.
And Grounds, I'm messing up their name. Grounds Work Denver, I think they're called.
Okay.
And they work with at-risk kids and do a lot of trail work and bikes and a lot of stuff along the Platte River, and we're looking to help, kind of see how we can integrate them with a Trips for Kids team, which would be South Metro Denver, and then this 360 Impact. They're kind of in North Central Denver. And so they're basically working with the unconventional student. And so we hope to get them coming to the races next year, and they just came up this year, and we got a team from South, and it's one of my favorite conundrums of trying to bring those communities together and find the leader in that community, because I'm a white 50-something female who comes in and says bikes are great for you and you guys all want to go to races, and yet they're going to be like, what? We need bike paths.
Right.
We need bikes. We need, we live in a food desert. We need internet access.
Right.
So.
Well, thinking of that, what would you say is basically your 1 or 2 biggest challenges as an organization to keep doing what you're doing and to grow? What's that really tough thing, that frog on your plate, so to speak? Or is it consistent? Is it something every different? And COVID obviously is a whole different.
Yeah, it depends on what element you're looking at. You know,
Is it finding
training. Well, money helps with everything.
Right, sure. And that's where sponsors really help out.
Yeah,
Obviously.
sponsors are huge. They're over 35% of our budget comes from our very generous and committed, loyal sponsors. And I would say venues. Finding venues is huge.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And being able to staff.
Because you had what, typically 5 events a year, is that right?
Yes.
And now that it's gotten into the size that it is, you have 2 events per weekend, 2, like 1 south, 1
Right.
north. So you have basically a double staff, double equipment, double everything for those weekends, and then moves around different places. But you'll bring what, about 800 kids per event,
Per weekend.
plus
yeah.
coaches, plus in non-COVID years, parents and relatives and brothers and sisters and all that. So you really bring a big group of people to a venue.
Right.
Which is very impactful, obviously, in a good way, but maybe some tough ways too.
Yeah, it's the economic impact we hope is valuable to these communities because the families go to the communities before the race or they're exposed to a community for the first time. When we had state championships in Durango, a lot of people had never been there. And then they love it and they'll go back. Eagle, Steamboat, people didn't realize how many great trails there were there. So that we hope is a value. The choke point as far as venues is having something that can accommodate our races, and that's why we did break into regions with also the anticipation of growing. So our estimate was to have 350 to 400 kids per day per venue in 2020. And then of course COVID happened. So that's a big thing of you'll find great trails, no infrastructure, no parking, no access to food or plumbing or anything like that. Or you'll find a fabulous infrastructure and the trails don't really meet our needs because we have very specific needs or specs for our trails. So that's one. Keeping staff and trained and being able to move up the leadership in the organization is really exciting and challenging for a nonprofit because we have really talented people that I want to keep.
How big is your staff?
3.5.
3.5 full time.
Yeah.
Half full.
And then on
you have
race,
seasonal help.
then we have volunteers, very committed volunteers for years and years, like you met Sean, and lots of people who have stayed around for a long time, even if they don't have kids or they're not coaching. It's incredible because when they get there and they see the kids, they're like, yes, I see these. Like,
shout out to Rob Quinn, right?
Yeah,
with everything. Rob, we appreciate your articles.
And you see these shy, timid kids, especially when they're freshmen, and then they're seniors and they're confident and they know the drill and they're helping other kids and they've made friends across the region and they see each other every year, or they'll go see each other off season and ride bikes together or go skiing or
go to the Tour de France like Sepp Kuss, right?
well, I'm talking the bonds here. Yes.
I know, but it's amazing where the people just start to graduate and become whatever. And
it's amazing. Maddie Monroe and Ada Erst and Riley Amos and Bjorn Riley, all the kids who are already competitive. Those kids would be following those dreams anyway.
Right.
However, someone like Ada Erst, who didn't know that she was a competitive athlete, went and represented the worlds
Right.
as a junior female mountain bike racer.
Yeah.
And,
That's pretty cool.
You know, so just to see kids shine in a new way that they never thought. They're building bikes, or they come back and be a coach, or, you know, they're working at Bicycle Colorado, or at Yeti, or at Wheat Ridge Cyclery, or University Bikes. A lot of the summer help has been from bike teams. And we all know that bike shops need mechanics.
Right. Well, so think back to your 20-year-old self, and now your 50-something-year-old self. What would your 50-year-old self tell your 20-year-old self that you've learned because of this experience? And what would you take with you from that 20 year? You know, like, what has this really taught you over the years that you wish your 20-year-old self had known?
Never give up on anyone.
See it through with them, right?
Yeah. And there's always a place for you. Whether it's band, whether it's the chess club, whether it's the bike team. and the power of nature to heal. As I always say, nature RX.
Nature RX. That's good.
You know, you're never alone. And that nature is really a soothing, we all need it.
Yeah.
You know, we need that to thrive and survive. And we need each other to thrive and survive.
So is it fair to say this is kind of a dream come true for you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, maybe that's a good way to end our discussion. Dreams can come
Dreams
true.
come true.
See it through.
Bikes are magic.
Bikes are magic. Bikes are freedom. See it through.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks for spending some time with us, and
Yeah, well, thanks
for
so
letting us
much.
be in so involved. It's been a wonderful fall, despite the things that we had to deal with. But hopefully next year we'll be doing this in person and see you at the events and bring the 303 trailer and get to talk to some of these kids and get the stories out firsthand.
Yeah, we'd love it. And be grateful for everyone in your family and your health. And thank you so much, Bill.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, better living through cycling.
There you go. All right, thanks.